We have really rainy, miserable, cold, terrible weather like it's been out in Morecambe where we've been staying. Perfect. Um, so, mostly I wrote true crime stories as when I first got published. And you know what a true crime story is? Where you interview people about the terrible things that have happened to them and their families. And this would be things about, you know, murder or things like that. So I spent a lot of time going to prisons and talking to the killer and spending a lot of time talking to the police and the victims' families. So we could talk about crime, we can talk about that later. But after a time of doing that, and I did 6 true crime stories, I switched to fiction. The idea being that, you know, writing fiction, crime fiction, which is what it was, that I could take the experience that I had talking to the police and talking to the criminals and the killers and all these people and use all that experience in fiction storytelling, where then I didn't have to go to the prison anymore. You know, I could just use what was in my head and what I've learned. So I did that for a little while. And I'm here today because I've done something new. I've taken all of that true crime stuff, the fiction crime material, and now I'm writing for you guys. I'm writing for a younger audience. And I'm here to share a little bit about my book, Envy, which is the first book that I've written for the young adult audience. And the young adult audience, if it's 12 to 25 or whatever, I don't know what you consider it in your country, but I know in our country, a lot of people who read young adult fiction are even older. I mean, some moms actually read it, so that's good too. So when I came, before coming to this little book tour, my publisher said I've got to use social media to engage with these new readers. Who's on Facebook? Like everybody, isn't that? You're too young to be on Facebook. No? Okay, who's on Twitter? This is good. Okay, so my publisher said, Greg, you've got a new audience now, and they're engaged in social media, and you got to get with the program. So I signed up for Facebook, and I have now 8,000 friends. Okay. And what I did before coming out was I put a question to my readers in the States, because my book's been out there about a month longer than it's just come out here this last week. And I said, okay, you've read my book, you are interested maybe in what I've written and maybe interested in how to become a writer or whatever it is. What questions would you ask if you could ask a question of me? So I have the 10 questions that the Americans asked, and I'm going to share their questions and my answers, and then hopefully you'll all have some of your own. First question was from some kid that said, you know, and this is a question all writers get, you know, did you always want to be a writer? And does anybody want to be a writer here? One brave soul. A couple, there's you go. Okay, 2. You too? No? Okay, in the back. So here's how I became a writer, why I wanted to become a writer. I was an 11-year-old kid. You guys are all older than 11, right? Way older. I was 11, and my family had taken me on this horrible vacation to this really terrible zoo. And it was the smallest, crummiest zoo you could imagine. Okay, it was like 3 or 4 animals in one little cage. And there was like a cup of water. And I looked at that zoo and I thought, this is just pretty bad. And my dad said, well, do something about it. So when we got back home from our vacation, I wrote a letter to the editor of the paper of that town. And I said, your zoo is appalling. Which at 11, I always tell people that was a really big word. For Americans, that's a big word. Okay. We would say, your zoo sucks. Okay, but I used appalling. Your zoo is appalling. And the funny thing that happened was they ran the letter in the paper, and within like weeks, other people started responding to this letter this 11-year-old wrote. And they said, you know, we agree, our zoo is appalling, or our zoo does suck. You know? And they started collecting money. And my grandmother, who lived in that town, would send me all these clippings from the paper. Every week I would get a stack of things in the mail that said, you know, we agree with the man from Seattle, you know, they didn't know I was 11, that our zoo needs some help. So by the end of maybe a year's time, they collected lots and lots of money. They had thermometer kind of banner in the front of the town that showed the progress. Okay, so it was like no money, then it went up to like $10,000 or 15,000 or whatever, and they fixed up their zoo. Okay, and then I thought, wow, I wrote a stupid little letter about a crummy little zoo, and I made a big change. I mean, those poor little animals in that pen, you know, got a better life. So that's why I became a writer. I became a writer because I knew that words could make things happen. And later on, I thought, well, you know, words can make things happen. One of the things that words can also do is entertain people, okay? So that's another reason why I started writing books. I wanted people to be engaged and interested in what I had to say about things that I thought were important. And what I thought, as growing up, what was important was crime. I was interested in why, you know, why a little baby who's born perfect, like all of us are, why would that turn out to be a monster at some point? Why would that person do the unthinkable? And then on the other side of the coin, I always wanted to know, what was it like when somebody had something terrible happen to their family, how they deal with it. Okay, so those were the reasons why I became a writer. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Kind of? Okay. Okay, the other question, and I did write this name down, this person was Kitty Cat Cute from Twitter. And I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. That's fine either way. But Kitty Cat Cute said, and I don't really, I mean, their initials are KKK, which is bad for my country. What brought you to YA, and what do you think about it? Okay, because remember, I'm writing nasty bits about adults and all that stuff I've done all my life. Now I'm writing for a new audience. And I thought about that a lot. Why would I write for you? And what I've learned is that you're kind of more engaged and more interested in believe it or not, in books and stories than the adults I've written for. Back in the States, where the book's only been out a month, there have been kids that have done, you know, artwork about the book. They've done videos where they go on YouTube and talk about the book. They send me email or they tweet me and tell me what they think or what I should do next. Where in the adult audience, they just read the book and put it away. Maybe they think about it a little bit, maybe they talk about it with a friend, but you're all different than that, because when I asked you who's on Facebook, all of you are just about. So I like that connection. I like the idea that when I'm writing my next book, Betrayal, I'm going to hear, I've already heard from people on this trip, from the kids I've talked to. They're tweeting and they're following me now and they're telling me what they think. And I like that. I like the idea that I can write a book now that is a little more collaborative. Do you know what I mean? You can tell me, oh, I hated that part about when that girl did such and such, or I wish I would have known more about it. So I write now for you guys because I feel that you're going to help me get better. Okay, you're going to help me tell the story you really want. So I like that. The family in Envy sounds a lot like yours, and let me explain my family. I am a crime writer. The dad in the book is a crime writer, okay? But the dad in the book is not bald, okay? He's got a lot of hair, he's thinner, so it's not me. But the dad, the family in the book, they have twin girls. I have twin girls, okay? My twin girls are 26 now. The girls in the book, Haley and Taylor Ryan, are 15. My twin girls don't have special powers. The girls in the books do have special powers. And why did I do that? Why would I pick something really close to my own family situation except for the special powers part? And the answer to that is, all writers know this, you've got to write what you know. I mean, maybe some of these fantasy people, I know the werewolf people really don't know werewolves. But the best fiction, I think, is fiction that comes from a little bit from real life. So I chose a family who, they live in this little town in the Northwest, which is where I'm from, and their whole lives have been about crime. Dad writes crime. Their mother is a nurse at a mental hospital for the criminally insane, so she's got that part of it. And then we have these two little girls that they think nothing of, you know, talking about an autopsy at dinner time, where you and I, we might gag at the idea, you know, discussing all that kind of stuff. You like it. Good. You're a good kid. But in this family, that's just the way the family lives. You know, they are a crime family and interested in criminal justice and interested in all the CSI kind of stuff that, you know, I like. did make them a lot like my family. You know, this is a really good question. I don't know who put this one in. What is it about the Northwest? Okay, in the Northwest of where I come from, that's where Twilight's set, right? I know you hate Twilight, which I love you for that. Who likes Twilight here? Who's read it? A lot of read it. I really thought it was good. Oh, the whole series. Okay, so you kind of get this. My girls in the book make fun of Twilight, so but you'll still love the book. Because the Northwest is dark and murky and rainy, and it was a perfect setting for something like Twilight. In that, you know, vampires, except for when they're all sparkly, they like to be in the dark. Right? So, you know, darkness creates gloom, it creates tension and mystery, and that's why I set the Empty Coffin series in the Northwest. I live there, and I get it. I get how we have a really high suicide rate. We have a lot of depression in the Northwest, so it's just perfect for writing this kind of a story. So that's why I set it in the Northwest. We also have a lot of criminals in the Northwest. A lot of places for people to hide, okay? People who've done bad things. I'm talking about, you know, we've had some really famous serial killer cases. I know you all have had them. Maybe not in this town, but have you?
No, I don't think
Okay,
any serial
that's
killers.
nice to know that you know of.
Yes.
They haven't yet to be discovered. So that's why I picked it. I picked a town in the Northwest, a real town. Port Gamble is where I based this series. And Port Gamble is a seaside type town. It's on the water. In the Northwest, we don't have anything in terms of history like you all have. Our buildings and our things are quite new, and Port Campbell is a little bit different for America and the Northwest in that it's been around since 1850. I mean, doesn't that sound like nothing to you? I mean, we see your buildings that have been around since the 12th century or whatever, but Port Gamble is really old for us, and the reason we don't have a lot of, you know, we're a new country, but one of the reasons is because it rains so much and is so damp all the time. Just about everything we build rots because we weren't smart like you. Everything you have is stone or brick. We built everything out of wood. So that's why I said in Port Gamble. And I did try to read Twilight. Just, I know you're a big fan. I did try. I just couldn't do it. I did watch a few of the movies. Did you like the movies? Were they good, as good as the book? Okay. And I'll probably go to the last Twilight movie, which is next spring, right? We have, in the States, the next one comes out next month. Is it same time here? Are you all waiting for it?